T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's your career affirmation. You're going to rock that interview and get that job.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Morgan, your career BFF, rescuer of animals and careers. I take lost and abandoned and confused and misfit job seekers, and I empower them to be confident job closers. So here we are, Thursday at noon Eastern. We are in the focused and fulfilling week of the BFF method. And today we're going to talk about money, because I love talking about money and I'm not scared to talk about money. And I want to encourage and empower you to be fully confident, stand in your power, own your worth, and be willing to talk about this uncomfortable topic as we are navigating along these job search journeys. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Please say hello in the comments. We have my friend Cynthia here from Erie, Pennsylvania. Awesome. I love it. And drop any questions that you have about compensation, like when is the right time to talk about money, and when, does it make sense when a recruiter is asking you, what are your salary expectations? How do you handle those types of things? So feel free to share any challenges, weird situations that you've run into, because we're here to serve and support and solve some of these strange things that come up through the job search process. So, all right, we have Ronette in the house as well, and G is here from Frisco. Cynthia is from Pennsylvania, and Ronette is from New Jersey. Awesome. That's right. Okay, G is starting us off. So when's the best time to start talking about money? Early and often is my opinion. And here is why. As a recruiter, there's nothing worse than things falling apart at the end of a conversation, right? And your time as a job seeker is just as valuable as the time the hiring managers are spending to get to know you and the hoops that the recruiters are jumping through to schedule interviews with you. So We don't want people taking money out of your pocket when you're spending valuable time that could be focused on aligned opportunities that are going to pay you what you're worth. So, with that, that's why it's important to do your research. So, as you go through this process and you decide, okay, this is a viable job, and how you determine a viable opportunity will be on another strategy session, but I definitely have some opinions on how to qualify opportunities. Okay, so let's put a pin in that and we'll come back to it. But you want to do your research. So you can use some of the websites like salary.com, payscale, levels.fyi to get some baseline information. I think Indeed also has data out there. If you have any other resources that you found helpful or resourceful, please share with the community in the chat. And because I know, working as a recruiter, both agency and corporate, that this is a question that we ask of the decision makers. And in order for a recruiter, in my opinion, to execute a successful search, we have to know the framework that we're working in, because salary is a quantifiable, important part of this process. And there are things that add to total comp, right? Having flexibility, remote or hybrid, or vacation, or robust benefit package, stock units. There's all things that add into that total comp, but we want to know if we're playing on the same ballpark, right? Or if, we're here on Earth and they're on Mars, or vice versa. So, as you're going through this interview process, what has inspired this conversation is I spoke to a past client who was back in the job search, and she was exploring opportunities. And she had gone through like 4 weeks of intensive like panel interviews and all these things. And she got to the end of this process and she was like, Anna, I never brought up money again. And I'm not even sure that this position is within the scope of where I need to be. And so this is, again, what inspired this conversation. And I encourage anyone, with the primary person that they're dealing with is typically a point person in the interview process. It could be the coordinator, it could be a full cycle recruiter. Sometimes they're going to take the temperature just to make sure that there's some alignment there. And I always invite you to, if you've done your research and you have a baseline understanding of the job, respectfully kind of reframe the question to them and see if you can get them to give a budgeted pay range. And then you can say, well, yes, I am, on the mid to higher end of that process. Thank you for sharing it. It also builds trust between the recruiter and the job seeker. And so, if I were mentoring up and coming recruiters, I would encourage that they don't be afraid to do this, because job seekers really appreciate it. I mean, throw up some hearts if you're with me and you're like, thank God the recruiter told me that this position, I'm seeking $60 an hour and it's $20 an hour. And okay, thanks, great to know you. Let's keep in touch. But this position's not going to align with my comp and salary goals. So it's important to be confident enough to have those conversations. It's a little bit of a delicate dance, because some people might be nervous about bringing it up too early. And they're like, oh, if I bring up money too early, it might scare off the recruiter or the hiring manager. So it's really about evaluating those first line conversations. How long did the first phone screen last? Do you feel like you received a comprehensive understanding of the job description? Do you have a clear understanding of what the interview process and expectations are as you go through that process? So it's also about building trust with the recruiter or the person that reached out to start this conversation with you. If you can build trust and transparency with them, you are going to have a higher probability of having success through this interview process. So that's one strategy, right? And not being afraid, at the end of a call, when the recruiter says, is there anything else? And just say, I'm not sure if this is the right time, but would you highlight the salary band and range that is budgeted for the position. And you 100% have earned the right, since you've spent time taking the call, explaining your background, to ask that question. And then, like I said, make sure you do your research in different places. And there's always the opportunity to keep the door open if you're a more senior level candidate and you're going through this process. More will be revealed as you go through the interview process, which would potentially impact what your value would be in that particular situation. So let me explain. So for like my past client, who's a senior director, as she went through the process and she met with more stakeholders and she became more immersed in the problem that she would be solving as stepping into a leader with this organization, and the tactical and strategy work that would be required to meet the company's goals and objectives, it was a bigger position than maybe the job description had conveyed, right? So at that point, this is why having that main person that you're having these communications with and checking in with them periodically and going back to your recruiter and debriefing with them what you learned from the interview, what you now understand of the position and responsibilities, because then you can tie more money and more negotiating power to what you have learned through the process. Additionally, like getting the feedback on how you have performed in the interview, hearing the words of how the recruiter describes the manager's feedback or what they liked or where they had concerns really gives you leverage on how to use that same language when you get to offer stage and negotiating stage. So I'm just going to pause there and let that kind of marinate in. Research, build trust with your key point of contact, and then act accordingly, right? Because again, my purpose is, it is hard enough looking for a job, filling out the applications, being socially visible, taking care of yourself, managing your household, doing all the things, right? So if you have one less thing that you have to worry about that could potentially fall through the cracks, you're going to increase the chances of finding that right job, right? So you want to take the time to have those conversations and know your value and what you're worth. Going to pause and take a little sip of water, or Pellegrino today. Okay, so any other questions for folks that are here? There's a couple people in the chat. Hi, Julie, welcome. That maybe pivoting careers, right? And so that's also something to think about if you're going from one career to another. And you have to know, right? Like what your expenses are, what is important to you in total comp, right? But the main point that I want to drive home is, don't be afraid to ask about the pay bands. Your recruiter, the opportunity that you're working with, if they don't have an idea of the role, that how much it pays, then it's probably not a very viable opportunity. Any recruiter that would agree to work a job or represent a company or a position without having, the position is 50 to 90,000 with a 10% bonus, would not, prove that they have a legit opportunity. So, but again, it is a little bit of a cha-cha to figure out, do I want to bust out and talk about money in the first 10 minutes of a conversation? Probably not. You want to demonstrate your expertise, walk them through your experience, understand why the position is open. And then if they don't level set the conversation of, this is what the pay is, then you have the right to delicately and professionally ask the question. Dan is here bright and early. Good morning. So make sure you all connect with each other. Dan is the creator of Job Connection Tuesday Collective. And we have office hours this evening at 6 o'clock Eastern. So if you need an invite to the Job Connection Tuesday Collective, just send me a DM and I can loop you in, and you'll have access to a lot of amazing events that are coming up. So, all right. So with that, I feel like this might be a good opportunity to share some of the events and things that are coming up in the comments. So, Dan, if you want to share, well, I can share the office hours. We also are hosting one of our peers, Tegan Bartos, we are hosting a live event on Friday afternoon. This is about how to be a program, project, and product manager. So I'll put the link for that, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to have some guest panels who are sharing their experience pivoting into this industry. So not only will have some tactical information, but it will provide a lot of hope for folks that are looking to make a similar change. So, all right, let me grab the link for that and I will put it in the chat. Look at Dan, multitasking at his finest. So here is the link. I'm going to put it in the chat now for the program, the triple P's. It's a mouthful on my side. So we have that coming up. And then I am here every Thursday at noon, and each week is a little bit different. I follow the format of my BFF method, which is behind the recruiter curtain, focused and fulfilling strategy, and fabulous self-love. And then the fourth week is kind of an ask me anything. I may have a guest, do something unique. You never know what you're going to get on the ask me anything weeks. But this is my 10th live in a row, y'all. I'm so proud of myself and so appreciative of the folks that show up. And I've learned a lot about myself and this whole process, and it has been pretty freaking cool. So if you're thinking about starting something new or pushing an edge in a way or leveling up in a way, don't be afraid to try something new, because sometimes doing things like this that are wildly uncomfortable for myself definitely lead to unexpected expansion and growth and opportunities. So as I said in my post today, my mission is just to give back what has been given to me. And it's like, I'm here and there's a community of people that are here that, are obsessed with serving job seekers. And we're here to believe in you until you can believe in yourself. And that's why I feel so passionately about, sharing some of the principles behind the fabulous self-love, because it's also been a journey that I've been on, and what has empowered me to show up in the way that I do today. So, with that, I have one other little win that I'm super excited about. I was interviewed by a recruiter from LinkedIn News, and I was featured or highlighted in a recent Get Hired by LinkedIn News article. I'll share that in the comments as well, and something I am very proud of. And this article also gives a lot of insights and tactical things that you can use as you're writing cover letters. So I, as a recruiter, have strong opinions about cover letters, but if you have to do them right, and don't be afraid to let your personality shine. So with that, I don't know about y'all, but I have a busy day ahead. Thursdays are always a fun day. I have some big meetings, some exciting things happening in recruiting with some of the clients that I'm working with. So I am probably going to pop off here in just a moment. But with money, do your research. build trust with the recruiter and the key people in the interview process. There's never a perfect time to talk about money, but it's, we make it awkward. Don't make it awkward. Just try to take a deep breath, say what you mean, and be willing to then ask the question and be quiet and just let the other person figure it out. Because there is no reason to go through a lengthy interview process and then get to the end and find out that there is a ginormous gap in what you thought the position was and what they were actually able to pay. And I'm seeing quite a bit of like level setting with salaries right now, especially at the, I would say, senior manager up to executive level. So, as you're going through this process, don't be afraid to, just dip your toe in to have some of these conversations, because your time is valuable. And I do not want you wasting your time, being away from your family, pushing off other opportunities where you can be focusing and staying closest to the opportunities where you have the correct amount of data to empower you to make decisions, right? And that also comes with being strategic, right? And qualifying these opportunities and knowing when to walk away too, because we can't be everything to everyone. And you need to know, have that clarity around, yes, I'm interested in exploring this opportunity, and interview practice is great. And you do learn about the company, the mission, the vision, the values, what it would look like, feel like to work there. But as you go through that process, you need to be reframing and having regular conversations with the person that's going to be a part of that offer process with you, so that there's not a big disparity at the end of the process. So that is my 2 cents, and I have strong opinions about talking about money. There are a lot of places where pay transparency is becoming, the norm. There are certain states where recruiters are legally not allowed to ask you your past salary. So definitely some of those websites I mentioned, like PayScale, would have that kind of data. So if you weren't aware of that, definitely check it out. So that is it. Okay, we have. I've interviewed with a company that had to check on leveling if chosen candidate and is still in process. This is the first time I encountered. Never knew this was done. Julie, I'm trying to. If chosen candidate and is in okay. So what I've also learned through my process, working on the corporate side of talent acquisition, is, depending on the size of the organization, there's a compensation team, right? And they typically will do comp analysis to figure out how it has changed with inflation or location. So there's a lot of moving parts in how they come up with these salary bands. So, Julie, to your point, I think maybe you are talking to a point where maybe there has been some pay disparity, like they're interviewing candidates and learning that the people that they're talking to that are qualified for the job are actually, say, $5 or $10 more than what the company has budgeted. And I know as a recruiter, that has happened to me, and I've had to go back to the compensation and say, I've interviewed 10 candidates, and out of the 10, 9 of them are 20% over the pay band that we have been given. Will you be willing to do a up-to-date comp analysis, and where can we find some wiggle room here so that we can work with the top talent that is available? So maybe that's a situation there, but Julie, just definitely stay in contact with a key person and, continue to follow up and see what's changed, and keep building that relationship, right? And don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth. So, all right, we are at 25 after, and the point is for me to pop on, add some value under one specific topic about talking about money. So today we've talked about the tactical, the why behind it, my perspective as a recruiter, where I feel like this can level you up. So always open to feedback. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to message me. Julie, if you want to talk further, don't be afraid to send me a message. And with that, we will be back next week for fabulous self-love. And I really want to dive into a little bit more of the inquiry piece, because I see a common trend with job seekers where they just want to fill the cup or the hole or whatever with the job, the activity, the applying, the doing the resumes and practicing the interviews and tactical, but they don't want to look themselves in the mirror, in the eyes and in the heart. And if we're not willing to do that work, it's going to make it more difficult for us to show up in our fullest, highest, most amazing, fabulous self. So I am still working on what kind of fun, fabulous love exercises we may do. But that is where we are headed for next week. I'm so grateful for this community. Thank you for tuning in. Please follow Career BFF's business page. Be a Career BFF, be of service to someone, share your experience and hope, invite someone to this conversation next week. And I love and appreciate all of you. Have a great week.